Homeowners Associations, HOAs, were originally designed with the intention of maintaining community standards and preserving property values, ensuring that neighborhoods remain aesthetically pleasing and desirable for potential buyers. On paper, this concept sounds beneficial. Structured guidelines help prevent properties from falling into disrepair, discourage unruly behavior, and maintain a cohesive look throughout the community. However, while some homeowners appreciate the order and uniformity that HOAs bring, others find themselves trapped in a web of arbitrary, rigid, and often excessive regulations. HOAs wield significant power over homeowners, with the authority to impose fines, place liens on properties, and even foreclose on homes for unpaid dues or violations. The problem arises when these associations enforce rules that seem disproportionate, unnecessary, or outright bizarre. Instead of acting as a force for good, many HOAs become infamous for their overreach, levying harsh penalties for seemingly trivial infractions, such as the placement of a flower pot or the type of vehicle parked in a driveway. These instances raise a pressing question. Are HOAs truly serving the best interests of homeowners, or have they become bureaucratic entities that prioritize control over common sense? One of the most common grievances among homeowners living in HOA-governed communities is the imposition of fines for minor or subjective infractions. Imagine waking up to a letter stating that you owe hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars simply because your grass was an inch too tall, your trash cans were left outside for an hour too long, or the color of your front door didn't match the approved palette. These fines often feel less like a means of maintaining community standards and more like a revenue-generating scheme for HOAs. Homeowners have reported being fined for something as simple as leaving a holiday decoration up a day past the deadline or having a car parked slightly askew in their driveway. In many cases, these fines can escalate quickly, turning what starts as a minor violation into a significant financial burden. Worse, homeowners who refuse or are unable to pay these fines can find themselves in deeper trouble, as HOAs have the legal authority to escalate matters by placing liens on properties or even initiating foreclosure proceedings. What begins as an innocent oversight can quickly spiral into a situation where homeowners are at risk of losing their homes over what they see as petty rule. While some HOA rules are understandable, such as ensuring properties are well maintained and preventing excessive noise, others are outright baffling. Across the country, homeowners have encountered rules that range from mildly annoying to completely absurd. In some communities, HOAs have dictated the types of flowers homeowners can plant, banned vehicles such as pickup trucks from being parked in driveways, and even prohibited certain breeds of pets. One homeowner was fined for installing solar panels on his roof, despite the fact that there were no explicit rules against them in the HOA's bylaws. Another was prohibited from having a basketball hoop in their driveway, even though it was a gift for their children. Some HOAs have taken their power to ridiculous extremes, fining homeowners for putting up American flags, requiring approval for minor landscaping changes, or even banning certain colors of Christmas lights. In one particularly strange case, an HOA ruled that homeowners could not have more than 3 lawn ornaments, leading to bizarre debates over whether a potted plant counted as an ornament. These rules, which often seem to lack any practical justification, leave homeowners feeling micromanaged and frustrated. For many homeowners, fighting an HOA fine isn't just a matter of paying a small fee and moving on. It often escalates into a drawn-out legal dispute that can cost thousands of dollars in attorney fees. Homeowners who challenge their HOAs frequently find themselves engaged in a David versus Goliath battle, as HOAs typically have access to legal teams and resources that individual homeowners simply cannot match. In some cases, disputes arise over ambiguous or inconsistently enforced rules. A homeowner might receive a fine for a fence being an inch too high, even though a neighbor has an identical fence without issue. When homeowners push back, HOAs may double down, leading to costly court battles. Take, for example, the case of Sarah, who was fined $1,000 because her garden gnome was deemed too ugly by the HOA board. Instead of removing the gnome, she took the case to court, spending thousands of dollars on legal fees in an attempt to fight what she saw as an unfair and subjective fine. Similarly, John, a homeowner who painted his house a shade of yellow that his HOA deemed too bright, was forced to spend over $10,000 repainting his home to comply with the board's demands. These cases highlight how HOAs can turn minor disputes into major financial and emotional burdens for homeowners. Faced with excessive rules and unfair fines, many homeowners have found inventive ways to push back against HOA overreach. Some take to social media, using platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to expose outrageous HOA policies and rally public support. Viral videos and posts often pressure HOAs into reversing decisions, as public shaming can be an effective tool against unfair enforcement. Others stage protests, attending HOA meetings in large numbers to voice their concerns and demand changes. Some homeowners even resort to unconventional methods, such as building moats or erecting elaborate Halloween displays in defiance of HOA restrictions. In one case, a homeowner who was fined for having a small decorative fountain in his front yard retaliated by filling his lawn with dozens of pink plastic flamingos, drawing national media attention and forcing the HOA to reconsider its policies. Legal action is another common avenue for resistance, with some homeowners successfully suing their HOAs for overstepping their authority or enforcing rules that were not clearly outlined in community bylaws. While these battles can be exhausting and expensive, they serve as a reminder that homeowners are not powerless against the often arbitrary decisions of HOA boards. One of the main justifications HOAs use for their strict rules is the idea that they help maintain property values. The logic is that by enforcing uniformity and preventing unsightly or non-conforming changes to homes, the neighborhood remains attractive to potential buyers. However, this reasoning often leads to overzealous enforcement of rules that do more harm than good. A fresh coat of paint or a well-maintained lawn might indeed make a home look appealing, but should an HOA have the power to dictate the precise shade of paint a homeowner can use or how many inches a hedge can extend beyond a driveway? In many cases, these rules end up stifling individuality and making homeowners feel like they have little control over their own property. Some HOAs have even gone as far as banning vegetable gardens in front yards, citing aesthetic concerns, even when these gardens are well kept and add value to a home. In extreme cases, HOAs have denied homeowners the ability to install necessary modifications, such as wheelchair ramps, because they don't align with the community's aesthetic guidelines. While property values are important, many argue that these restrictions go beyond reasonable maintenance and veer into unnecessary micromanagement. Perhaps one of the most extreme examples of an HOA overreach is the story of a homeowner who was fined $50,000 over a fence that the HOA deemed non-compliant. The kicker: the HOA's own bylaws didn't contain a specific rule regarding fence height, meaning the fine was based entirely on the subjective judgment of the board members. The homeowner, believing he had followed all necessary guidelines, was shocked when he received a letter demanding payment or the removal of the fence. When he requested to see the specific rule he had violated, the HOA provided vague statements about maintaining community harmony rather than citing an actual written regulation. Determined not to back down, the homeowner took the matter to court, arguing that the fine was arbitrary and lacked a legal basis. After months of legal proceedings and thousands of dollars spent in legal fees, the judge ruled in the homeowner's favor, forcing the HOA to rescind the fine. While this was a victory for the homeowner, it highlighted a concerning reality. Many HOAs enforce unwritten or inconsistently applied rules, relying on the assumption that homeowners won't have the resources or knowledge to fight back. Another significant issue with HOAs is that they often become battlegrounds for power-hungry board members who enjoy exerting control over their neighbors. While some HOA boards are made up of well-intentioned volunteers who genuinely want to improve their communities, others are led by individuals who treat their positions as opportunities to impose their personal preferences on everyone else. Stories of board members abusing their authority are alarmingly common. Some selectively enforce rules, fining certain homeowners while ignoring similar violations by their friends or allies. Others impose fines for trivial matters simply because they have a personal dislike for a homeowner. There have even been cases where board members have manipulated elections to remain in power, using procedural loopholes to disqualify opposing candidates. This creates a toxic environment where disputes are less about maintaining the neighborhood and more about personal vendettas. Homeowners who attempt to challenge these power-hungry board members often find themselves targeted with excessive fines, legal threats, and even attempts to have them removed from the community. When an HOA is run by individuals more interested in control than fairness, it becomes less about community standards and more about personal dominance. For many homeowners, dealing with an overbearing HOA isn't just frustrating, it's financially and emotionally draining. Receiving constant notices for minor infractions can create a sense of anxiety, making homeowners feel like they are walking on eggshells in their own neighborhoods. Accumulating fines can lead to severe financial stress, especially when they escalate into thousands of dollars. In some cases, homeowners have had to take out loans just to pay off excessive HOA fines, fearing that non-payment could result in a lien or foreclosure on their home. Beyond the financial burden, the psychological toll of battling an unreasonable HOA can be significant. Some homeowners report feeling harassed or bullied, particularly when HOA board members take an aggressive approach to enforcement. The stress of receiving threatening letters, dealing with legal battles, and constantly worrying about whether a minor oversight will result in another fine can make homeownership feel more like a burden than a joy. For many, this stress is compounded by the realization that fighting back against an HOA often requires a significant investment of time, money, and energy, resources that not everyone has. In recent years, homeowners have found a powerful tool for fighting back against unfair HOAs: social media. Platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube have become battlegrounds where homeowners share their horror stories, exposing HOAs that abuse their power. Videos and posts highlighting ridiculous HOA fines, unfair rules, and power-hungry board members often go viral, drawing public attention to these issues. This kind of exposure can be highly effective in forcing HOAs to reconsider their actions, as the negative publicity can lead to pressure from other homeowners, local media coverage, and even legal scrutiny. Some homeowners have even started dedicated Facebook groups and YouTube channels focused on documenting HOA injustices, helping others navigate disputes and providing a platform for collective action. In one widely publicized case, a homeowner who was fined for having a decorative wreath on her door posted about it online, leading to an outpouring of support from thousands of people. Faced with public backlash, the HOA ultimately backed down and rescinded the fine. Social media has given homeowners a way to fight back that was previously unavailable, proving that sometimes public shaming is the best weapon against HOA overreach. One of the biggest frustrations homeowners face when dealing with HOAs is the lack of transparency in how rules are created, enforced, and modified. Many homeowners move into HOA-governed communities without realizing just how much control the association has over their property. Often, rules are buried in dense legal documents or are vaguely worded, allowing the HOA board to interpret them however they see fit. In some cases, homeowners receive fines for violations they didn't even know existed, only to find out that the rule was added or changed without proper notice. Worse, some HOAs enforce unwritten or inconsistently applied rules, leading to confusion and a sense of unfair treatment. For example, one homeowner was fined for having an unapproved fence, even though multiple neighbors had identical fences that had never been challenged. When she asked to see the rule she had supposedly violated, the HOA struggled to provide a clear answer. This kind of selective enforcement erodes trust between homeowners and the HOA, making the association feel less like a protective governing body and more like an unpredictable and oppressive force. Despite the power that HOAs wield, homeowners are not entirely without options. More and more people are fighting back against unfair rules, excessive fines, and abusive HOA boards through legal action and activism. Many states have started enacting laws to limit HOA power, requiring more transparency and fair enforcement of rules. Homeowners who feel wronged by their HOA can often challenge fines, request official documentation of the rules, and even take legal action if they believe their rights are being violated. Some homeowners have successfully sued their HOAs for wrongful fines, selective enforcement, and even defamation. However, legal battles can be expensive and time-consuming, which is why many homeowners turn to collective action. In some cases, communities have organized to vote out problematic HOA board members, replacing them with individuals who prioritize fairness and transparency. Others have pushed for legislative changes, advocating for laws that prevent HOAs from imposing excessive fines or foreclosing on homes over minor infractions. While the fight against HOA overreach can be difficult, homeowners are increasingly finding ways to push back and reclaim their rights. The absurdity of some HOA rules and fines has led to countless stories that almost sound too ridiculous to be true. One homeowner was fined because her Christmas lights were too bright, even though there were no clear regulations about holiday decorations. Another was told he couldn't park his work truck in his own driveway, even though it was his only vehicle and fit within the space perfectly. Then there's the case of a man who was ordered to remove a bird feeder because it supposedly attracted too many birds, despite living in a neighborhood full of trees and wildlife. Perhaps one of the most shocking cases involved a homeowner who was fined for having a flagpole displaying the American flag, something that would normally be protected under federal law. However, the HOA argued that the placement of the flagpole was a visual disturbance, and the homeowner had to fight a costly legal battle to keep it. These cases highlight just how arbitrary and nonsensical some HOA rules can be, leaving homeowners feeling as though they are living under the rule of an unpredictable dictatorship rather than a fair and reasonable governing. HOA disputes don't just pit homeowners against board members, they also create tension within communities, turning neighbors against each other. In some cases, HOA rules lead to resentment among residents, particularly when certain homeowners seem to receive preferential treatment while others are targeted with strict enforcement. For example, a homeowner who gets fined for having an unapproved flower bed might feel frustrated if a neighbor with similar landscaping goes unpunished. These inconsistencies can create divisions within the community, making it difficult for neighbors to trust one another. Additionally, some homeowners feel pressured to report their neighbors for violations, either out of fear that they will be fined if they don't or because they believe strict enforcement is necessary to maintain property values. This atmosphere of surveillance and enforcement turns what should be a welcoming neighborhood into a battleground of complaints, fines, and resentment. Instead of fostering a sense of community, HOAs often create environments where homeowners feel like they are constantly being watched, judged, and punished. While some homeowners successfully fight back against HOAs, the process is often costly and exhausting. Legal battles can drag on for months or even years, requiring homeowners to spend thousands of dollars on attorney fees, court costs, and expert witnesses. Even when a homeowner wins their case, they may not always be reimbursed for the money they spent fighting the HOA. Additionally, the emotional toll of these disputes can be overwhelming. Constantly dealing with threatening letters, legal notices, and HOA board meetings can be incredibly stressful, leading to anxiety, frustration, and even depression. For some homeowners, the battle becomes so overwhelming that they ultimately decide to sell their home just to escape the HOA's grasp. Others, however, refuse to back down, seeing their fight as a matter of principle rather than just a financial issue. While the cost of standing up to an HOA can be high, many homeowners believe that challenging unfair rules and excessive fines is necessary to prevent these associations from continuing to overstep their authority. Despite the overwhelming power HOAs often wield, homeowners are increasingly refusing to back down in the face of unjust rules and fines. More people are realizing that they don't have to accept every decision handed down by an HOA without question. Some are becoming well-versed in HOA bylaws, attending board meetings, and rallying their neighbors to challenge unfair regulations. Others are using legal experts, media attention, and even humor to fight back. One homeowner, after being fined for having a non-approved mailbox, responded by painting it bright pink with polka dots to make a statement, forcing the HOA to quickly backtrack to avoid further negative attention. In another case, a group of homeowners banded together to vote out a power-hungry HOA board and replace them with a more reasonable leadership team. These acts of defiance are becoming more common as homeowners realize that, when united, they have the power to reshape their communities and resist excessive control. With the rise of platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, homeowners now have a powerful tool to expose HOA overreach. What once would have been a private dispute between a homeowner and their association can now become a viral sensation, putting immense public pressure on HOAs to back down. A simple post detailing an outrageous fine or unreasonable rule can generate thousands of comments, shares, and even local news coverage. Homeowners have used social media to rally community support, highlight selective enforcement, and force HOAs to reconsider their actions. In one particularly viral case, a homeowner was fined for putting up a small welcome sign on their porch. After posting about it online, thousands of people flooded the HOA's Facebook page with complaints, and within days, the fine was dropped. The public shaming of HOAs has become an effective method of fighting back, as most associations prefer to avoid the negative attention that can come with their rules being scrutinized. While some homeowners successfully challenge their HOAs, the financial burden of doing so can be devastating. Legal fees can quickly spiral into tens of thousands of dollars, making it difficult for the average homeowner to afford a prolonged court battle. Even when homeowners win their cases, they often walk away financially drained. This financial strain is part of why some HOAs aggressively pursue fines. They assume that most homeowners won't have the resources to fight back. In one case, a homeowner spent over $80,000 in legal fees defending their right to park a pickup truck in their own driveway, even though the HOA's rules on vehicle types were ambiguous at best. Another homeowner, who fought a $1,500 fine over holiday decorations, ended up spending more on legal costs than the fine itself, but refused to give in on principle. For some, the battle against an HOA isn't just about money, it's about standing up against unfair governance, even if the price is steep. While many HOA horror stories exist, not all associations are oppressive. Some HOAs genuinely work to maintain property values while respecting homeowners' rights. In well-run communities, HOAs focus on reasonable enforcement, transparent decision-making, and open communication with residents. The best HOAs seek homeowner input before making major rule changes, ensure that fines are fair and proportionate, and handle disputes with a spirit of cooperation rather than hostility. Some communities have even found success in restructuring their HOAs to be more homeowner-friendly, removing excessive restrictions and prioritizing neighborhood well-being over rigid uniformity. For an HOA to be truly effective, it should serve as a resource for homeowners rather than a power-hungry governing body. Transparency, fairness, and a willingness to listen can transform an HOA from a dreaded authority into a supportive part of the community. At the end of the day, while HOAs have the potential to improve communities, they often end up being sources of frustration, stress, and financial hardship for homeowners. The stories of excessive fines, bizarre rules, and power-hungry board members highlight the need for reform in how these associations operate. But homeowners are no longer just accepting unfair treatment. They're organizing, using legal channels, leveraging social media, and standing up for their rights. The tide is shifting, with more homeowners demanding transparency, fairness, and reasonable governance from their HOAs. As awareness grows and more people push back, the future may hold a better balance between maintaining community standards and protecting the rights of homeowners to enjoy their own properties.